Okay. Hello, welcome to Shooting Better Scientifically with National 4-H Shooting Sports. Today's going to be a little different. We are interviewing the match director for national championships, Mr. Steve Pritchard. But first, our hosts today are
Chandra Plate, Kansas 4-H Shooting Sports Specialist and National Committee Member.
And I'm Tammy Stewart. I am a Nebraska 4-H volunteer and have the privilege of sharing as a level 3 coordinator trainer for 4-H shooting sports with Chandra. And so a couple announcements as we get started today. Number one, we are about to go on summer break from Shooting Better Scientifically. So this will be our last program until September, and we plan to see you then. And then also, we are still collecting Center Shot on Cereal. Those stories are being featured every Monday on Facebook. A lot of fun to see Cowley County 4-H Shooting Sports today. They've gone the extra mile of making TikTok videos to go with Center Shot on Cereal. So just a reminder, we'll keep collecting those and sharing the stories as they come in. So watch Facebook on Mondays for that. But with that, let's introduce our special guest, Mr. Steve Pritchard.
Well, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you, Tammy and Chandra. I'm welcome to all in the audience here today as we get the opportunity to talk about the 2023 National Championships coming up.
Well, Steve, tell us, what are the National 4-H Shooting Sports Championships?
It is the coup de grace, the highlight for the 4-H shooting sports from the competitive side across the country. So it involves 27 different events. It's held in Grand Island, Nebraska at a couple of different range facilities. We're at Fonner Park for a good share of the time, but all the live fire events minus air pistol and air rifle are held out at the Heartland Public Shooting Park. It's a fun week. It's a hard week. It's a long week, but very enjoyable for those who have been there and involved in different capacities.
The 4-H families and volunteers who like to play hard and work hard, right?
Very true. Very true.
Which you're a great example of that.
Some long days.
Oh, Steve. So, Steve, how is it like a state shoot, or how is it different than a state shoot?
It is somewhat similar, and there's probably some variations across the country on how their state shoots are held. They may be all in line on a given weekend or a given day. Others might be scattered out over the period of a few months. Some of the rules that the states go by vary a little bit from national, is my understanding. But we've got the best kids in the country that do come to Grand Island, and we follow the rules that the National Shooting Sports Committee has approved on national governing body, with, and in some cases, a little 4-H influence in there because we are a youth development program.
So those that might be shooting like Scholastic Trap or the National BB Gun Competition coming into nationals may be a little bit different then.
You will see a little bit of change across some of the other national events or state events that are held across the country, but most of the basics do stay or are very similar. You mentioned BB gun. Well, that is not one of the events that's held in Grand Island. We focus on 9 different disciplines and 3 different events per discipline over the time that we are at the national championships.
I always find it interesting, like when people come in, especially in shotgun, and they might be really good at trap or skeet or sporting clays, but they have to shoot all 3.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see that in any of the other disciplines when they come in?
primarily probably on the shotgun, but rifle would be another example. Silhouettes is new to some, or it had been. It's in the past where they've never really had the opportunity to see or practice using silhouettes, either for small bore rifle or perhaps even air rifle, air pistol events. But trap, oh, there are probably a few others. But well, some of the other differences you just asked about. On the air rifle side, some of them may not have had a chance to use their electronic targets, the Kongsberg system, back in their own state or county for that matter. For the air rifle and air pistol and small bore pistol, we started the turning target systems for the rapid fire. And another new venture. I can remember the first year that we introduced it at Grand Island, there was a lot of questions. Some were pretty timid to see what it looked like. But once they kind of figured out the game, and of course, a lot of the states took that back and designed a system very similar.
So
it's a
you
new
see,
challenge.
so you see states kind of repeating after nationals to help get their youth ready, if they so desire to go to that competitive level.
We see a lot of the states, especially in the last 5-6 years, that have come to Grand Island to the national championships, and particularly like on the turning target systems somewhat, but lining up their state matches to coincide with the national championships. That wasn't always true. We would have kids coming to Grand Island, as you mentioned, never shot skeet in their life, or have never been able to compete on the silhouette side. So they have kind of mimicked, maybe in a little bit lesser scale than what is set up at national championships, Tammy.
Right, depending on probably the human resources, the money resources, the material resources they have in their state. I think most probably want to mimic nationals, but we all have limitations too.
And that's true, either financial or human resources. And I'm always a believer of know the rules of the house you're going to come to play in.
Mhm.
And so I would encourage, and hopefully all of our state coordinators have shared, and the competitors and coaches that are coming have utilized some of the resources up on the national championships website.
And we made sure that was on the beginning slide. So if they go back, watch the video, because I knew you were going to say that. So
we get a lot of calls. The CROs get a lot of calls and emails asking specific questions, and 99.9% of those can be answered by gleaning the resources on the championships website.
no, that's great, great advice. So Steve, we've known each other 20 some years now. Chandra, you've been working with Steve for how long now? You're muted.
You're gonna make me do math. 7 years, I think.
So Steve, in those 20 years, you've had great opportunities to serve in different national positions, not just in shooting sports. You also, have your counties that you take care of. You're an educator. You're at camp within a month of going to nationals and being the match director. There's a lot of opportunities, right, to provide some leadership and extension. But what makes you keep coming back year after year to serve as the match director for the national championships?
Depending on the day, Tammy, depending on the day. But no, really, it's the people. As yourself and Chandra, I see a silver bearded gentleman on the screen here that has been there and occasionally has had, he loves traveling to Grand Island, don't you, Conrad? He really looks forward to making that trip every year. And the return trip also when he goes home to Maryland. But it is truly the people. You've heard me say it before. It's a 4-H family, and shooting sports is a very high example of people getting together for the youth and sharing back and forth and helping one another out. It's just awesome. One of the things I enjoy most when we get back together is the first night of crew meeting. And it's just like you're in a coffee shop and everybody's just come in. That they are getting reacquainted face to face instead of via Zoom, via telephone or email. It's that personal contact to kind of check each other, how everybody's doing, and kind of get an update and renew old friendships. That's a key part.
And that core crew that you're talking about is the chief range officers, the assistant chief range officer, their stats people, their muscles that help set up ranges. About how many people are total in this core crew that you're talking about that's coming back to get together?
There's approximately 90 on the core crew, and that's more than just the disciplines. We don't want to forget our water engineers coming in, our volunteer coordinators, our awards and ambassadors coordinators, registration in the big picture. It's all of those folks that come together to make this an event what it is. And I really appreciate those folks giving a week of their time, because some of the crews will arrive, they just don't show up and everything's set up and everything's handy, or there isn't some maintenance or repair work to do. They'll come in a couple of days prior to. We'll have crews this year that'll arrive on Thursday, so they are ready to start setting up ranges on Friday, or mowing range areas, hauling out targets, stakes, whatever it takes to for the setups for it. And that just doesn't happen overnight to make that go.
And a shameless plug here is volunteer coordinator for the event. We're still taking volunteers, not necessarily core crew, but please go to the website and volunteer. All right, Steve, switching like your brain directions, right? Kind of pulling on your experience as a positive youth development educator in 4-H. And in Shooting Better Scientifically, we have several clubs that have many disciplines and many ages. I'm going to some ages and stages questions for you. When you think of an 8 to 10-year-old starting their 4-H career now, what would you suggest a leader do with their young shooters to prepare them for 6 to 10 years down the road, when hopefully they'll qualify for the national championships?
As a young person or coaching a young person, number one, they got to have some fun and not be necessarily competitive every once a week or every time they meet. And a little bit of a new challenge for either a new position or a new technique to learn. But why do they come to the meetings to begin with? They want to shoot. They want to learn how to be better themselves. And so we can kind of sneak in the back door a little bit and provide some of those critical thinking and decision-making opportunities there for those young folks to maybe self-analyze. But the younger ones, they want to have some fun, and they want to have fun with their friends.
Nice. So then let's go a little bit older, but not quite old enough for championships now. So that tween age, right before the teenage years, or maybe even the beginning of the teenage years, where their skills aren't developed enough, so they might not want to step into championships. What would you suggest a 4-H leader or coach be doing with the tweens to make sure that they're ready to be eligible for championships in a few years.
A lot of younger teens, what I've seen in younger females, sometimes that self-esteem or confidence is not right at a very high level. And that's true across all, but having set them up so they are successful, giving them some opportunities. Again, they're becoming a little more social when they interact with some of their colleagues, depending upon whether you're a young male or young female. But number one across all ages also is safety. We want to handle and make sure we have proper firearm safety rules and protocols in place, and know what the range commands are for everyone's safety. But those younger teens, sometimes just being able to build self-confidence and self-esteem in themselves, because the mental game between earlobe and earlobe is very important. And sometimes that can be a challenge, and it takes time. It doesn't, in most cases, doesn't happen overnight.
Absolutely. So now we're going to go into those teen years that they are eligible. And I think about a mom that was in my county that called you one time, and she wanted her son to come in and shoot shotgun. And it's like, put my son on the team. I remember you having to walk back and go, wait a minute, there's a state competition. You have to qualify before doing all of this. So what do you kind of wish that mom would have known, or a 4-H leader, to start setting that young man up for success so he could have been on the Nebraska shotgun team, which he eventually did make it, but he wished he would have waited a few more years till he was older also. So what do you have to say about that, or advice?
Older teens, some of that is start at an early age if they truly have the passion and they have the interest to do that. Young people will change some of that, but it's also providing where are they at on their self-esteem level. Can they make those tough decisions on the spot, that critical thinking or decision making and problem solving aspects of it also. Also on the social side, social skills, how important is he truly a member of the team? Occasionally you'll see members coming in there that they may not be necessarily from a county team. They may be a mix across, and that poses a new challenge for the coaches there, is to building teamwork and unity together so that they have each other, look out for each other and support them. But also, depending on if they're not a shooter inclined, or maybe they didn't make the team that year, there's other opportunities, as what you just promoted earlier, for volunteers to help on the older teams, or perhaps the ambassador program in their state, or apply for one of the national positions. Those are some outstanding young people that we are very honored to be able to host when they're in Grand Island and helping at the championships.
Absolutely. You know, when you talk about volunteering, I think about the young people that have come into Nebraska and volunteered. One young man was from Texas before he shot here in Nebraska. And he was so glad he came up, because he goes, you people have wind. And he realized that when he did make his team, the wind was really going to affect his performance. So he started figuring out ways to practice like that. So.
Well, when we first hosted the first couple of years of the national championships, we did everything out at the Heartland Shooting Park, including air rifle, air pistol. We were outdoors. So being able to adapt to those conditions, and it still holds true on the Silhouette Range on a windy day. That's why those problem solving and in the mind, you've got to be able to adapt, because conditions change every day down there. It might be windy. It's been known to shower, rain, thunder, or a gorgeous day.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's affecting everybody at the same time. At least
I-
we try to keep the playing field level.
I remember the year on the archery range where there was a dip and it rained. And so like Walmart was sold out of muck boots, right? So they could walk through the water to get to their targets and pull arrows. And it's like learning to shoot in muck boots versus whatever they were used to became a big challenge that year. So I'm going to go to the coach question. So the coaches you see on different ranges, what do you see them doing or have they done before arriving to prepare their state shooters?
That's a hard one. You know, by the time the young people get there, and especially after maybe they've sighted in rifles or check conditions, you see a lot of those coaches, they stand back and observe. Because at that point, it's on the merit of that individual to figure out what they need to do. But they're there in a support role as needed, and helping team members or perhaps members from other teams have a positive experience at the championships. The ultimate goal, no matter whether they walk the award stand or not, having a positive, fun, good experience is important. Because hopefully they will tell their friends when they return home that it was awesome. You know, we got to meet kids from all across the country. You know, maybe I didn't have quite my best day, or I had a malfunction on the firing line, but so-and-so came and helped me, and he wasn't even from my state, but from my county. And that's been the case over the years. Almost every year you'll see those type of examples where everybody is joined together to help one another be as successful as possible.
Absolutely. So let's switch to the youth frame of mind then. When you interact with youth at the championships, which, I mean, you get to see the core crews mainly, right? Because that's who you're overseeing. But when you do get to interact with youth, what life skills are you seeing a youth has who is enjoying themselves and experiencing some success at the championships? Not necessarily winning, maybe meeting their goals or whatever they determine as success, but what life skills are you seeing them come with, and maybe they were coached on before they even came to the championships?
Teamwork would be one, where you've got a team representing one of the disciplines there, but they all kind of look out for one another. They support each other, whether they are up on the line or they are back in the crowd to help leadership. They step forward to volunteer to help. Some of them might be saying the pledges at the ranges in the morning. Sometimes that gets delegated. Sometimes it might be a volunteer basis. They help clean up around the ranges afterwards. They clean up after themselves on spent shell casings or whatever the case might be. The social side, where they like to, they're visiting with meeting other friends. Team social, Chandra, you've got a big mix there. And the kids love that. They love getting the opportunity to meet, have some fun together. You might be trading state pens or other items along that side, but you see that as kind of a core that they understand that they are representing not only 4-H, but their state program at Grand Island. And majority of the time, they do a very, very good job at it.
How neat. Okay, so if you were going to set up a training plan for a state team, so I'm not getting discipline specific, it's just across any discipline, what would be some of the activities you would have a team do prior to coming to nationals?
Well, number one, if I've never been there may be two different cases. If I've never been to Grand Island the national championships, I would find out what coach or coaches were there in previous years. to gather a little advice and suggestions in how they may have prepared to make the trip. Probably the second thing is get on the website, look at the rules, look at the synopsis, look at the general rules, look at the schedule. The funding aspect of it. Who's paying what? Is my state, are we gonna have to do some fundraisers? And depending upon what that timeline is, when the team was selected to go. Get parents involved as that network, support network to do that with. You know, some of the basics there, and then if it's on the competitive side, you need to probably prepare them for each of the 3 events that they will be competing in over the course of 3 days. And underneath different conditions, whether it's windy or inside, outside, in making sure they still have some fun in that experience.
Awesome. Great advice. So we've talked a lot about preparing them. Another huge part of 4-H is that sense of belonging. And very often the sense of belonging comes from traditions. So what are some favorite traditions that you see states doing? And if you want to talk about any favorite traditions of volunteers or range officers, because they're being a volunteer and having a sense of belonging is important too. So what are the favorite traditions you see states doing?
Well, of course, we have opening ceremonies on Monday night. So it's awesome to see all the different state colors and garb that they wear, or the swag that they may have. Trading of the state pins that they take, the kids really enjoy that. Over the course, and maybe I've missed it the last couple years, but some of the states used to bring a lot of the food for their competitors and families and coaches. So they would garner up, it looked like a smorgasbord out there on the table. Some of them bring food. So one night I'm going down to the event center. I'm driving and I see, I don't know, there's probably 50, 75 kids walking along the street heading to another motel. That whole state was cooking up, I forget what it was, barbecue, or they were cooking food for and invited everybody. It really varies a little bit, but you're right, traditions in there. Some of them like to go out and have ice cream someplace or a certain type of food. They may be taking a little side trip at some point to a venture in Grand Island or around the area that they normally have tried to do that every year, any teams that have come. But there's a lot of different ones out there. Crew meetings, we like to have a little fun, and we won't mention any names, but you kind of have to have a give and take along that line. We usually celebrate, there's a birthday celebration normally that week or 2, at least one that I remember. And I'm very bad at remembering birthdays.
I got you covered.
But it's those type of things. And I'll reverse that question. What do you see? You've been there for several years.
Wow, traditions that I love. There's one out on the rifle range. I think it's rifle, it might be pistol. They have some special frisbee that they throw out to the range once everybody's kind of done and cleaned up, and they like try to shoot down this frisbee. So that's been kind of fun to see that when I happen to catch that. But I love opening volley on the muzzleloader range. And so to go out there and the first shot, not competitive shot, is shot and there's all the black smoke going. And the last couple of years, I think they've probably gone live during that time. So that's been a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
So, so if people are coming out to Grand Island, what do you think is a must see or do for them in Grand Island? what's special about Grand Island, Nebraska that you're like, you'll definitely want to check this out if you're there?
It depends a little on their interest.
Mhm.
You know, Steer Museum comes to mind as a highlight for history back in the day. As kind of a quick stop around through there. And not too distant away, the Archers are in Kearney. You've got some other opportunities throughout the city of Grand Island, Hornaday, but right now that they are not offering tours. In the past, that was an opportunity for maybe a limited number of teams to go through there and see that manufacturing process. Some of them have special places to grab and eat food. To do that with the water park there, if they want to enjoy that. The Raising Nebraska, it's right on the Fauner campus, is an opportunity to see some of the technology of agriculture and learn a little bit about the ag aspect of Nebraska history. And that's close by.
Absolutely. Those are all great. One thing that I don't think a lot of people know is Mormon Island out by the interstate. If you want to take some kids swimming in a lake, Mormon Island has swimming out there. You do need a state park pass to get in, but the Alaska and Nebraska contingencies usually stay out there and welcome everybody. So kind of neat to see. All right, Steve, last question. What is your favorite part of the National 4-H Shooting Sports Championships? And if you need that to be plural, that's okay.
I love opening ceremonies. I like the energy that's coming through from all the folks as they very proudly represent their state and they are introduced in front of the crowd. And just seeing the excitement that they have and the excitement of the coaches, you see the excitement of the competitors, all the national ambassadors there is probably one of my favorite parts of the championships. Irregardless of how the awards programs go the rest of the week, that there's not to diminish them, but that's probably my favorite time when you get a little background music going and you introduce this, get the opportunity to introduce the states as they come through. And again, all of our shooting sports friends, when they get the opportunity to come back and get the chance to meet and greet face to face.
How great. So Stephen mentioned earlier, Conrad's on. Conrad Arnold is our National 4-H Shooting Sports Coordinator. Does a lot of making sure things happen nationally too. And then of course, Chandra serves as the ambassador advisor and is in charge of the teen social. So I'd like to open it up and see if anybody has questions for Steve or Chandra or Conrad or Chandra. Do you have any for Steve? Or Steve, do you have any for us? And I am going to put the slide back up so everybody has that website of where you can go. The website is 4h.unl.edu/shooting-sports/national. All right, what are we hearing from the crowd? You always have to love the silence, right?
Hi, Steve. This is Mark Morris from Georgia. How are you?
Doing good. How are you today, sir?
Doing well. I'm a shotgun coach for one of our county programs in Savannah, Georgia. But I'm working with our state to start the hunting and outdoor skills. So my intent is to try to volunteer this summer at the national. Even though I'm not certified in hunting, what are the opportunities to volunteer with that to kind of see how the program runs? Or how do you think that would work, or should I just try to volunteer with shotgun?
And I'm going to maybe defer because I'm not sure how many slots are left on the volunteer site, Tammy. I have not looked here in the last few days, but there are parts that the hunting skills core crew does need some extra volunteer, extra help over the course of the given day to to help them complete that day's event. Core crews, right to the best of my knowledge now, are all fulfilled. Those have been kind of in the mix for at least 2 or 3 months. We start that process fairly early to do that with.
So my advice, Mark, is, and I can't remember if you're already signed up or not, but my advice is to go in and sign up for shotgun and hunting skills. And then let me put you wherever we need you that day. Love to have flexible people, but then also maybe the water crew, because with the water crew, you get to go over and watch different ranges as you're delivering water. And so that gives you a good perspective of the whole event. So yeah, I would mark both shotgun and hunting skills, because very often I'll have shotgun volunteers show up that morning, and then I'll be like, is anybody willing to go to hunting skills? We need 2 people over there to score or pull. So that would be my advice.
Okay, yeah, I'm filling out my application right now. I'm looking at the schedule online. Yeah, so I'll do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other thoughts or questions from the gallery? All right, Steve, leave us with some closing words about the National 4-H Shooting Sports Championships.
Tammy, could I say something before Steve?
Yeah.
Just when you asked Steve about some of the highlights, that there's something that was really exciting for him to see. And I think one of the things that comes to my mind is seeing the maturity level of a number of the teens and the participants that are there, and to see how they recognize the importance of those volunteers on crews when they go up to them towards the end of the week and thank them and share their appreciation for their efforts. That to me is very important, as we all know. The other one is how the different participants support each other regardless of what state they're from. And you know, the first place you'll see this is when they come down as a discipline for the awards presentations, and they all line up in a line, and as the names are called, the group runs up through the line and everybody's cheering them on and congratulating them. That's just a wonderful thing to see. And once again, I want to say thanks for Tammy for coming up with that idea of the lines for those presentations. That's a wonderful thing. So that's what I had to say.
That sense of belonging, that's always where you're gonna get me, right? It's like, let's help everybody belong, and then we can work on the independence, the mastery, and then the generosity, even that's been talked about today. And those 8 essential elements that we know 4-H is so rich in. So thanks, Conrad. That was great to hear.
Well, I'll ask Chandra. She's been pretty quiet here at this point. What is your favorite thing to happen at the championships?
My favorite thing is also opening ceremony, but you talked a lot about that. So I'm going to share about the ambassadors and how what a professional job they do at running all of the award ceremonies. The national ambassador team gets there on Sunday, and we have our first meeting. And because in the last couple of years, they've been doing everything on Zoom, it was sometimes the first time they'd even met each other. And so just building that team atmosphere with them, and then watching them shine as they each took positions and did whatever they needed to do, whether it was helping lay out ribbons beforehand, or helping hand out ribbons that day, or that evening, or if they were being the person who was on the microphone just watching them shine and grow in their positions, and how 4-H is impacting their lives as well and helping them become all that they can be.
So Steve, you're back in the hot seat.
I'm back in the hot seat.
So your closing thoughts, parting thoughts, besides everybody is welcome to come, observe, volunteer, compete, cheer on at the national championships in Grand Island, Nebraska, June 23rd through the 28th. Should have looked
25th.
that up.
25th to 30th.
Okay. You can tell which days I'm focusing on right now. So, and you're
probably one thing you were talking about volunteers, and it does take a host number of volunteers on a given day. In addition to the core crew members, it may take another 50 or 60, depending upon what events are happening. Because it takes a lot of extra bodies for archery 3D day on Thursday.
Correct.
Almost all days on the shotgun aspect of it. But you can help a day, you can help the week. We'll feed you a meal that day. If you work 2 days straight, we will cover motel and meals. I haven't quite got Conrad to convince to pay your way, but we can at least feed you and put you up. And we'd love to see you in Grand Island, get a chance to meet you June 25th through June 30th. Grand Island, Nebraska, Fodder Park opening ceremonies, 5 o'clock, June the 26th. But I do encourage you, look at the schedules. Don't hesitate. If you don't see it, reach out to me, phone, email, whatever the case might be. All the chief range officer's contact information is up on the website via phone or email. And that site, we've got the majority of it updated. We've got some pieces we'll add in there yet.
That is awesome.
Looking forward to it.
It's gonna be another great year. Another great year. So, all right. Thanks everybody for joining us today for 4-H shooting sport, shooting better scientifically. We will see you back in September. We will have a survey that comes out about how you may have used some of the lessons from this year, and then also give us feedback on how we can help you be the best 4-H volunteer that you can be. Chandra, anything else you want to add to that?
No, not really.
All right. Everybody have a great summer. We hope to see you in Grand Island, Nebraska.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Steve, for being our guest today.
You are most welcome.